If you were a fighting game fan in the late 90s, whether you played at arcades or in your parents' living room on shoddy home ports, you knew just how monumental Capcom and SNK collabing together was. The 2D fighting game juggernauts came together and spawned 5 video games between the two companies. The explosion of these pairings are still causing seismic waves as recent as today, with Terry Bogard and Mai Shiranui being added to Street Fighter 6, as well as Chun-li and Ken being added to Fatal Fury City of the Wolves. I often think how cool it was for both companies to have access to each other's universe, seeing SNK characters created in Capcom sprite style, or Capcom characters drawn by SNK artists like Nona. This was truly a sight to behold and still something to marvel at today. I will say that there is something that isn't talked about as much with these titles, and that's the gameplay changes made to existing characters by the guest crossover companies. Today in this video, I want to take a look at all the creative decisions SNK exercised when constructing some of the Capcom characters in SVC Chaos. These changes vary from stylistic appearances to brand new moves and altered animations. With that being said, let's tap in and see just how many of these changes Capcom would implement in their future games. Dhalsim represents one of the better cases of changes in SVC Chaos. He's always been Street Fighter's resident weirdo with his stretchy limbs and pacifist nature, but he fits oh so well in SVC Chaos' unsettling atmosphere. On a first impression alone, you hear the sounds that his body makes as he contorts and twists. Even his dashes look alien. This was the first game where his stomach expands during his flame-based specials and supers, something that Capcom would add later on in Street Fighter V. Dhalsim has 2 unique super moves in this game. First, his air drill and air headbutt has been upgraded to an air super, with the B version being the headbutt and the D version being the drill kick. His ultimate attack or exceed move that he has in no other game is called the Yoga Legend. It's a short-range attack that launches and does an air rombo-like combo. Funny how his strongest attack contradicts his entire playstyle and is so butt cheeks that Capcom never used in any other title. Hugo makes the roster, and that alone is rare considering how Zangief was the de facto grappler from the Street Fighter series back then and even still now. Taking one look at Hugo and you can see just how detailed his sprite is and how it's nearly identical to his Street Fighter Third Strike sprite. Putting them side by side though, and you can clearly see one big difference. Big difference itself how SNK made Hugo ginormous in this game as he towers over everyone except Earthquake easily. Eventually when he returns on Street Fighter 4, Capcom added a few more inches onto the Metro City man meat for his second giant attack. Speaking of second impact, Hugo got his fighting game debut in Street Fighter 3. You know, that Street Fighter 3, the same fighting game series that brought us Evil Moment 37, and more recently another Evil Moment with Hayao, 2 hype clips showing off Street Fighter 3's most prolific mechanic, the parry. Since Hugo represents SF3 in SVC, SNK went to give Hugo his very own special parry mechanic with a high and low version to try and replicate that awesome feeling. Last tidbit on Hugo, and this is a curious one. For some reason in his intro dialogue scenes and some of his win poses, Bao from the KOF series teleports and starts swinging on his arm. Since this game's story isn't properly explained, this seems to happen for no real reason, but it does give me some Iron Giant type vibes. Let me know in the comments though if you know why this pairing exists. Boxer's existence in a crossover with a roster full of deep cuts just makes his ass look lame. Though I guess you can't only have 1 or 2 Shadowlow members without having the rest of them. Anyways, Balrog is one of the least changed characters in this list, but he does receive a brand new special move never before having until this game. Wild Smash is done by inputting down, up, and kick. Balrog launches an uppercut that has a juggle property. SNK also gave him an Exceed version of the same exact move with the same exact animation, so you can either call that lazy or cost-cutting measures, your choice. I'd like to think Capcom transferred this move into Street Fighter 4 with the dash low smash, but despite similar name conventions and animations, they both function differently, with one being a stationary punch and the other being a long distance overhead. There's also some speculation that Balrog's sprite is just a redraw over Heavy D's from KOF because they have similar idle stances, but personally, I don't really see it that way. Sagat doesn't really have any defining gameplay changes or new moves, however, SNK did tamper with his overall design. He looks more lanky and has less body mass compared to his previous sprites. And the way SNK tweaked his depiction here isn't too far-fetched from how most Muay Thai fighters resemble and are built in real life. A philosophy that SNK would tread once again for Joe Higashi and his KOF 13 sprite. To me, Sagat looks grotesque, and if you want to see something truly hideous, look at this neutral jump heavy kick.
This is horrible.
Talk about coming full circle, it's Dan Hibiki. Brief history about Dan Hibiki for the few that may not know, but he was a parody character created by Capcom to poke fun at Ryo and Robert, who themselves were SNK's version of Capcom characters Ryu and Ken. In Ryo's home game, The Art of Fighting, you have a spirit meter for your special moves. The higher the meter, the longer distance your fireball and special moves go, but when it's depleted, you get the opposite. Dan's whole moveset has been based on the lowered meter version, so all the weak fireballs, the weak DPs, etc, etc. In the Street Fighter series, Dan has always been a comic relief joke character. Now that he's in the hands of SNK, they gave him a few more Kyokugen Ryu moves to add to his arsenal. Dan gains the Garo Shokuken as a brand new special move. It's a large but short-range fireball parodied after the famous Hadouken move that's from Art of Fighting. This move would get later repurposed as Dan's Ultra 2 and Super Street Fighter 4. Dan now has Ryo's Heavenly Glazed Punch as his own normal move, which he calls the Heaven and Earth Self-Weight Punch. An exaggerated name for an equally fitting move, as Dan charges some energy before thrusting his fist forward in an attack that's actually not as bad if used correctly, since it has armor and is even unblockable. This move gets used again in Street Fighter 4, now taking the appearance of Dan's forward throw. It was really cool seeing SNK have fun with a character that was designed to make fun of them. And the funny part is, he's actually not even the lowest tiered character in his game, so you can get some usage out of him. Chun-li probably got the best gameplay upgrades compared to everybody else on this list. Starting with her specials, her Light Punch Kikoken takes on a new animation and purpose. If this looks familiar, that's because it's exactly the same as Andy Bogart's Light Punch Fireball that he has in various KOF games from this time period. Chun-li has her iconic spinning bird kick in his game, but it works differently than it did in past Street Fighter games. Normally, it's a multi-hitting attack that can knock down opponents. SVC Chaos's version, however, lets her do multiple kicks with huge amounts of hit stun that she can even cross up with on the heavy kick version and link into other specials or supers for more damage. For some reason, SNK decided that Chun-li was not cheap enough, so they decided to give her a command grab similar to Yoon and Yang's from Street Fighter 3, which allows her to get a big opening on their opponent. As you can see, it has a lot of hit stun, so you're able to combo into virtually anything you desire. Even the man of two moves, Guile, wasn't able to escape SNK's hand meddling. Take a look at his fucking hair. They pulled and stretched that man's flat top more than any other game, to the point where he himself resembles a sonic boom. Staying on the topic of booms, of course, while this isn't necessarily a change, I'd be remiss if I did not mention Guile, a character that is based on charge moves being put into an SNK game where charge time is cut in half to traditional Street Fighter games. Like, just look at this. Guile does receive a new super in this game called the Somersault Slash. It's a vertical big flash kick that has a spike down animation. I really don't know why SNK gave him this new move, considering Guile already has Somersault Strike, which is a far better anti-air super and does more damage, making it the prominent go-to anti-air. But I guess there's no complaining when having two different anti-air supers, right? In hindsight though, they should have reneged on this super and gave him back the handcuff special from the Street Fighter movie game. I've saved the most popular and fitting example of this video's topic for last. It's Voilent Ken. This character exudes the main mission of this video, as he is the ultimate creation of SNK's liberation. He was an original character for this game that was inspired by what happened to Ken in the 1994 Street Fighter II animated movie. Ken gets ambushed by M. Bison and then becomes brainwashed and forced to fight his friend Ryu during the movie's third act. Back to SVC Chaos though, you can see quite the expansions on this idea, as he has all of Ken's classic attacks but now sports purple energy emitting from them. Voilent Ken has an exclusive special move, Dash, that has one of the best sound clips you will ever hear in a fighting game. Also, for some reason, Nona's character portrait for SVC Chaos Voilent Ken is a black man? Hey, don't get me wrong, I think Black Ken goes hard because like most black fighting game players love using Ken and would definitely invite him to the cookout. It's just a shame they didn't draw the afro on him in his in-game sprite. SNK struck gold with this version of Ken, and eventually Capcom would bring him into their own canon with his appearance in the Switch port of Ultra Street Fighter 2. A few weeks ago on Twitter, I asked, what's the source of Voilent Ken's powers? Does it come from Psycho Power or Orochi Power? As you can guess, most people said it's Psycho Power because it's based off Bison brainwashing Ken from the movie, but some others pointed out how his Exceed super shows the Orochi skull that you see in various supers from other Orochi characters in different KOF games, like Vice, Yashiro, Rugal, etc., those who are under the Orochi blood. Factor in along with his purple flame attacks, in his in-game dialogue that he's grunting a lot and barely speaking any English, and he's practically the same as the Orochi form of Iori. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Is it Orochi Power or Psycho Power? And have a good one.
That's all for now, fighters. But if you've enjoyed what you've seen, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, don't forget to follow Rome's social media pages down below. Take care, see you next time, and most importantly, thank you for watching.